So you're about to embark on a fast, but you're worried, or you just want to understand how not eating's gonna affect your Z's? Let's dive in. Guys, what is up? Kevin from Lift and Balance here. And this past weekend, as I was finishing up a shorter fast, about 4 days, this idea to make this video came to my head because it's something that I'm always interested in when I'm fasting, and that is how I sleep. The duration, the sleep stages, the restfulness during the sleep, all that good stuff. And I figured some people out there might be wondering the same thing. So today we're gonna look into some of the sleep metrics from my previous 2 fasts. Just for a little context here, we just hit July 2019. I finished up a shorter fast a few days ago. That was about 4 days, probably somewhere around 85 to 95 hours, I'm not sure exactly. Then we'll look at a longer one from back in March, which was a 7-day, 170-hour fast, and look at some of the sleep data from that as well. So throughout the video, we're gonna be looking at relative change from my baseline, from my averages over the past couple of months of data that was collected. And we're gonna be doing this by looking into statistics from what I think is the best consumer sleep tracker on the market, that is the Oura Ring. So to keep this from getting super in the weeds, we're gonna look at 4 categories that are of interest to me, and that is deep sleep, low resting heart rate, REM sleep, and heart rate variability. We're gonna look at the data in the Oura Ring dashboard to see how those 4 categories match up while I was fasting compared to their 6-month running average. First and foremost, before we even dive into the data, I want to make sure that you take everything that we're about to go into with a grain of salt. This is all N of 1 experimental data on me against my averages. You and your conditions may and definitely are totally different than me and my conditions, so this is not to compare at all. Now, I also spend a lot of time focusing on how to optimize sleep, putting myself in the right environmental conditions, and so on. This isn't the video where I'm gonna go into all that, but you can check out a video that I made previously right up here, and I'll link it below, that goes into all the benefits of sleep, why you should optimize your sleep, and how to get better sleep. Also, again, before we dive in, if you're interested in fasting and want to see what 7 days of a water-only fast is like, made a video on that too. You could see it up here. It'll be linked below. Goes through some of the benefits, some of the things I noticed. It was basically a daily confessional, so you can check that out as well. But for now, in this video, let's focus on how sleep may be affected during fasting. Cool. Now, like I said, we looked into deep sleep, we looked into lowest resting heart rate, we looked into REM sleep, and we looked into heart rate variability. I chose each of those for specific reasons, which I'll touch on as we dig into the dashboard. Enough talking. Let's go. First one, deep sleep. So deep sleep is our most restorative sleep. It helps with memory formation, consolidation, muscle growth and regeneration, and one of the most important things, it cleans our brain through something called the glymphatic system. So studies have shown that as we age, as we get older, our ratio of deep sleep decreases. It is one of the things we want to hold on to as long as possible and optimize for. So if you're looking at the dashboard right now, we're looking at the first 7-day fast, and that first chart hones in on deep sleep. The bottom section showing the amount of deep sleep I got during each night of that 7-day fast, with that top line just as a reference showing the amount of total sleep I got that night. So this is, like I said, this is the 7-day fast. It went from March 4th to March 10th. And then the second page, which I have in this tab, shows my average over the 6 months of how much deep sleep. So if you look into my average over 6 months, on average, I have about 2 hours and 11 minutes of deep sleep per night, with my total sleep on average being about 7.5 hours. Now, as we look during this 7-day fast, deep sleep was at 2 hours and 32 minutes. So relative to my average, deep sleep rose quite a bit. And that's basically with the same amount of total sleep time, about 7.5 hours. And I apologize, the ring actually ran out of battery one night, so I missed Wednesday the 6th data. I don't have that. We can just pretend it's there. But again, on average, deep sleep increased for that first fast. And when we go to the shorter fast, the 4-day fast that started on June 25th, 2019 and went to June 29th, 2019, we see that deep sleep was actually even higher. It was 2 hours, 46 minutes per night, which is even a greater percentage above my average. But we had a little more total sleep. We had about 8 hours of total sleep. So you have to take that into account, what we're actually looking at. But deep sleep did increase above my average for both of my fasts. Now, since we're on the topic of total sleep real quick, I'll touch on something that I hear and I've experienced a little bit, that you actually need less sleep while you're fasting and you feel as restored with less sleep. Now, a lot of researchers think that this is actually an evolutionary trait, specifically around our body being able to adapt and say, hey, we're not finding enough food, so we need to increase the amount of time that we're awake searching for food rather than sleeping. So you want to make sure you still get the proper amount of sleep when you're not fasting again, but it might be something you notice. I just wanted to touch on that. All right, back to the data. So next up, we have our daily lowest resting heart rate. This is the bottom number that your heart rate hits each night when you're sleeping. Typically, you want to see your lowest resting heart rate hit early in the night. That means that you got into a nice restorative stage of sleep. Now, on average, over the past 6 months, my lowest resting heart rate is about 47 beats per minute. Now, if we go to that first fast, we'll see right off the bat that on average, my lowest resting heart rate was 45 beats per minute. So that's a couple of beats under my 6-month average, but you'll see as we got later in the fast, that number got lower, getting to the 44 for the last couple of nights. Now, if we go to the second fast and we go down to lowest resting heart rate, we'll see that on average for that second fast, it was 44 beats per minute. So it was a little lower than the first fast. And I actually got down on midway through that fast, and it was the second day, and it was only a 4-day fast. I got down to 41 beats per minute. So that was noticeably lower from my averages as well. The next data point that I'm going to take a look at is my REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep. This is known as the dreaming phase. It is an essential thing that we do each night that really helps with our emotional well-being. Researcher and sleep guru Dr. Matthew Walker calls it overnight therapy. That's how impactful it is. It dulls and heals emotional pain. It's also known for creativity and being able to abstract and link information in our brain that we've consolidated that we just can't do when we're awake. REM sleep is really, really important and something that is literally essential for our optimal well-being. So let's see what happened during the fast. So if we're looking at my 6-month average of REM sleep, I'm about at just under an hour per night. So if we go to that first fast and take a look, on average at about 47-ish minutes. So it's a little lower. REM sleep was a little lower, and as we shown before, I did get roughly about the same amount of sleep time at 7.5 hours each night. So REM sleep seemed to decrease a little. I don't have a real explanation for why, but it definitely did decrease a little bit. So if we go to that second fast, the 4-day fast, we see that REM sleep was definitely a little higher. It was over an hour, a little bit above average, but that was mostly brought up by one night where I got an unusually high amount of REM sleep, as you can see Saturday the 29th. So if that night wasn't there, I'd probably be around average again. So for me personally, I don't think there's much conclusions to draw at this point with REM sleep and fasting. I think I'm pretty much around average. We'll have to keep an eye on that as I look at data from future fasts. So that's REM sleep, and let's finish up with heart rate variability. Now, heart rate variability is super important because it reflects the activation of your nervous system. And a lower heart rate variability is associated with the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight response. So that means that your heart is beating a lot faster. There's less disparity between heartbeats compared to a higher heart rate variability, which is associated with the parasympathetic nervous system, or the rest and digest nervous system, which has shown to be correlated with a lot more biological benefits. Being in a relaxed state where your blood pressure is lower, your heart doesn't need to beat as hard. There's more disparity between the beats. So let's look and see if anything is affected with heart rate variability on the fast compared to my 6-month running average. Again, Oura Ring data, let's dive in. So on average, I have a 93 millisecond heart rate variability. Now, if I go to that first fast, which again was that 7-day fast, we see that heart rate variability is at 93 milliseconds, and that's right on with my 6-month running average. So nothing's really changed. It didn't show that I have an elevated or lowered heart rate variability. It basically stayed the same. If we look at the shorter fast, you see it's slightly elevated at 103 milliseconds, but nothing crazy. It's basically the same, telling me that there's not much change with fasting and not fasting and heart rate variability. Again, I want to point out that this is a very limited look. It's only a couple of data points over 2 fasts, and it's me. My situation, again, totally different than yours. So something to keep an eye on as I correlate more data as I continue to fast over time. So I don't think we have enough to make any major conclusions. That's what I got. Hope this was informative. Hope this gave you a little look into what some of the changes that may happen with your sleep while you're fasting. It was a cool video for me to make because I got to compare and look at some of the data. Thank you for stopping by. Hope this answered some questions, showed you a little look into some of the experimentation that I've been doing. Oh yeah, and if you're interested in learning a little bit more about this super cool ring, you can check out this video right up here. I will link it below, and that breaks down the Oura Ring, the data you get from it, the dashboards, and everything that's so cool about it. I love it. I hate wearables, which you'll see in that video, but I consistently wear this ring every night because the data is just so damn valuable to me. So overall, I'd say that fasting was beneficial on my sleep. Again, this is my sleep, not your sleep, not anyone else's sleep. This is me versus me. I gotta tell you, all this talking about not eating and sleep, it's got me really hungry. I gotta go make a snack. And then take a nap.